Hi everyone, so today I thought we would build a tiny house or a container house for this very scared sim who's in the middle of a thunderstorm. I wanted to make this house off the grid as possible, which I promptly forgot as soon as I started building. I really like this house. It's tiny, but I think that it really captures everything that it needs to. So I really hope you enjoy it. So here I'm building a little deck because I thought that just a container on its own isn't very interesting to look at, and it wouldn't give us all the space that I really wanted. I wanted some outside area that was still connected to the house in some way and still covered by a roof, so I thought that a little porch would do perfectly for that. Finding the right windows for this tiny build was really difficult. I wanted to keep it all recyclable materials, so woods and metals looking. So finding windows that actually fit were really difficult. I managed to find this one window that I thought looked really good in the bedroom area, and then these other 5 windows that were just square, plain windows that let in a lot of light. I wanted to keep it modern, but also have a lot of wood around it. Here on the porch, I'm trying to see if I can do a sort of lattice on the roof. I quickly gave up on that idea because I realised that it would let the rain through, and I wanted her to be able to sit out in the roof, out in the porch while it's raining and look out, maybe do some knitting or some art or whatever, and really just enjoy that space. If you haven't already and you enjoy these builds, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can see more. I do a lot of different types of videos, but at the moment I'm really enjoying doing speed builds for you. If you have any ideas for anything that I could build in the future, please let me know down in the comments and I will get right to it. Here on the inside of the house, I'm using very natural materials, neutral colours again. It really opens up the area and it also makes it look very rustic and reclaimed, which is the look I was going for. Here I'm starting to put in the bathroom, and this is when I forgot that I was trying to do an off-the-grid as possible house. I never checked if any of these appliances were off the grid. Got to have your towels in there. Eventually I do go back and check, and they all are functional off the grid, which does really help. But in the end I ended up putting this house on a natural spring, so it didn't matter whether they were off the grid or not. One of the things I hate the most is playing Sims in dark and dingy houses. I find it really difficult to focus on it, so I try and make sure that my builds are light and airy and there's lots of space, but I also like to make there some clutter to make it look lived in. So I was trying to make these lights work off the grid, and I ended up using just this side light here, and that really gave the room some warmth. adding in some curtains now so that it looks more homely. I did use a few lights, so it is partially on the grid, I suppose, but I do have wind turbines and solar panels on the roof, so that all works out quite well for me. So I've put in a fireplace, quite a modern looking fireplace, but one that I thought that you would find in a tiny home, in a specifically in a container home. Quite modern looking again, but it will really add some warmth in the winter months. It will stop them from having to use the heating as much, and it is also functional off the grid. And all in all, I really thought that it brought some homeliness to the house. Now, as I'm going through, I'm going to put in the kitchen. I tried to make this build as affordable as possible. This sim is a brand new sim with standard starting funds, and I didn't want to use any money cheats so that it's available to anyone who doesn't like to use cheats. I did use move objects in this so that I could fit everything in quite nicely, as you'll see here with the cactus, but overall I didn't use any money cheats. This is all available to you in the store, and it'll be available for download now if you want to use it yourself. This house is designed for 1 or 2 people. It's really a starting home for a couple at most. I suppose you could put in a baby basket if you really needed to, but you would have to move some things around or make the house bigger. As it is just about 24 tiles, so it's not a micro home, but it is a tiny home. Just using the move objects again to put the mirror where I needed it. Where the bedroom is where I like to put the most clutter. I like to make bedrooms warm and cozy because that's where you're going to spend the majority of your time relaxing. So I tried to make it airy again, but using the wooden bed and putting some art on the walls to make it feel more homely, to make it feel relaxing and calming. Here is where I found out that the house wasn't actually a tiny home, it was just a small home. So I decided that I had a little bit too much room in the living room and I could move that end table out the way, move everything over a little bit, and I could make it into a tiny home. I had a lot of wasted space, which is nice in a normal build, but this was to be a container home and I wanted to make it as small as possible. So by reducing the living room and reducing the porch, I managed to make it into exactly 64 tiles, which then makes it a small home, which then obviously gives you the buffs if you have the tiny home pack. This house was actually built in Newcrest, which is where I build the majority of my homes. It gives me the most versatility, and I do usually put all of my homes up on the community store so that you can use them yourself if you want to. A lot of my homes are quite expensive, but this is the exception to the rule, and I did manage to make it with some funds still available for food because I have the cottage living pack, and for anything else that I might have forgotten, which in this case I don't think I forgot anything except maybe a clothing line, which only cost 200 simoleons, so that wasn't too big of a deal. I could do some fishing and get that back quite quickly. So here I'm adding the bug habitat, which allows you to get biofuel from it. which is really useful in the eco-living and even in the tiny house movement. I found I didn't actually need this because I didn't put in the recycler yet, as I did run out of money, so I couldn't afford it. Because of that, I didn't need it, but it will be useful for in the future. I do plan on playing this sim, and I have played through this entire house, and it is usable. There aren't any glitches that I have found. I'm just seeing if I can find anything to make it look pretty, but I decided that my funds were a little bit low for that. Adding in a water collector, although I did add in a natural ley line, so I didn't need any of those, and some solar panels to complete everything and make it as efficient as possible. Now adding in the traits that I want for the lot, so I had greener gardens, reduce and recycle. I was going to put off the grid in, but then I found that that was going to be too difficult, so instead I put in, I think it was ley lines, yeah, so it was water. Here we see that it was a tier 2 tiny house, which means that I had certain abilities in the house, which was really good. And here is the finished lot. I really hope you liked it, and there's my scared sim again. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye!